Everybody, welcome back to Trading Price Patterns. It is good to be with you all here today. I am sorry that it's me one more week in a row. I know many of you were expecting Rachel. You should see her next week. She'll be feeling better by then, very likely. So it is good to be with you. We have a lot of price patterns to take a look at today, which is just such a fun topic, isn't it? Love price patterns because price patterns give us structure to a trend. They give us potential projections and things to look out for, potential weaknesses, and potential targets, I should say. But yeah, love to dive into that, and it's always a great class to fill in for. By the way, I do have my a good friend, colleague of mine, and my manager here in the chat today. So I better keep a good session going on. No, but that is Scott Thompson. Everybody say hi to Scott in the chat. Scott T, as you'll see him in the chat there. And let's see. We'd love to welcome all of you here today as well. Plenty of you. But I'll just dive on into this. I do recognize many names in here. And welcome to Rachel's mom, who's here as well, Lisa. So great to have you here, Lisa. I did pick up that from the chats that I've done for Rachel, but good to have her here, as well as Jay Richardson, Paul, Marquise, Josh, and many others here in the chat. By the way, the chat, very good. If you have any questions, comments, throw that into the chat so we can help address those for you. I'll try to keep an eye on that as well. And it looks like, in fact, my production crew was just telling me that the colors had changed a little bit. So just be mindful of that. I think it was just yesterday we had yellow for the Trader Talks webcast noted, but now it is black and white. And so with that, little change there in scenery. But folks, today, in addition to our discussion, I did want to talk about using a particular indicator that can help us to spot and identify patterns. So we are going to be looking at a lot of patterns, but there also is an indicator out there, the zigzag pattern. I don't know if you've looked at it before, but very helpful in terms of finding and getting used to spotting patterns. And those patterns would be flag patterns would be there. You'd be able to see very clearly, as you'll see today, head and shoulders patterns, inverted head and shoulders patterns, and just consolidation zones with this. So looking forward to diving into that with you all today. Let's turn it over to some disclosures to get going here. So wanted to state that the information here is for general information purposes only. Now, the paper money software application is also for education purposes only as well. Now, investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Some additional points to note in here too as you're looking at this. And by the way, Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. Finally, wanted to note there are risks associated with investing in dividend-paying stocks, including, but not limited to the risk that stocks may reduce or stop paying dividends. We do have some of those to look at today. So they will be popping up. That's a good disclosure item to have right there. There is no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price, and past performance is no guarantee of future results. Well, let's get rolling. All right, taking a look at the markets here right now, just seeing what we've got right now. And I think this is interesting. I think the markets could be pausing a little bit just ahead of NVDA. As you look over here, we do have earnings after the bell today. Now you can see the estimates there at $2.09 right over there. Now with that, a quick note is that you can look and say online there are what they refer to as like the street numbers and things like that they throw around. You can find those out there. I don't have like a specific one. I mean, but like one of the consensus street numbers is like 212. So the expectation is that they would beat. I'm just going to hit this real quick because this could influence our price patterns as well, particularly in technology, but it could be across the board as well for other reasons. But just a quick note on this. So 212 are what a number of analysts are anticipating in terms of the street number. 212, as you can see over here, that is 209 if you click on it. So it is greater than that. A quick note, a cool feature too off of the platform. And that is if you go ahead and go to Analyze tab right up top here, go to the right under Earnings, the far right. So sub-tab Earnings right here. That will give us a really good view of the company's earnings. And the earnings, as you can see, they have been, yeah, clearly to the upside, trending up. That's been positive. I don't know if you looked at NVIDIA, yes, but a lot of it has been a little bit sideways, but sometimes there's a divergence. And if the earnings continue to grow, prices can, in fact, break out of these sideways ranges. And NVIDIA's had a little bit of this. Sometimes the value of the company tapping into other aspects, if that starts to increase over time, well, you might start to have a move to the upside. A quick note too, which is really helpful, over here on the left-hand side under EPS, make sure you've clicked in here, Wall Street. This gives us the Wall Street estimates, and you can see over here, 7 out of 8. Am I reading that right? Yes, there's 2 years of quarterly data. 7 out of 8 times, NVIDIA has beat Wall Street expectations. If you zoom in on this one, I think the expectations were zero point 0.2, and they came in at yeah, zero point 0.8, well, excuse me, 0.82 or 82 cents versus 81 cents. So they were very, very close here, but they've had a tendency to beat. And you can see 209 here with maybe the street number right around 212-ish or above, 210. So we shall see what does happen here on NVIDIA. I just wanted to highlight this because it could change the dynamic of the market. As we look at the market here, it almost seems like we're kind of pausing ahead of that. So things like this have happened in the past with some of these big earnings announcements. But looking at this, just some of the price patterns, just specifically, many of you have seen me do this like in my swing trade class because we do look at some of the patterns as well. But not as many as Rachel does in her class, that's for sure. Quick note, there is a LT. That stands for long-term flag pattern. LTF, how about that? An LTF right there. So this one you can see big upward move in the S&P 500. This right here could be our projection to the upside. Takes us right into that mid-range, about 8,600 and change, right in the, yeah, about 8,600 range. That's the upper scale. Now, if we break this down a little bit, looking at the markets, because remember, the markets can play a key role and a big influence, could have a big influence on what could actually happen with a number of price patterns on an individual stock basis. It is an index of the 500 stocks, so it can be a good reference guide to what could see on the others. As you look over here, um, there is another price pattern that slips in here. I'm going to use the Thinkorswim platform tools, so we've got a permanent one on the screen here. But if I go over here and click up top here, that could be construed as a price pattern, a flag, a shorter term flag coming to the upside here. I'm just going to right click, change the colors. This is really helpful too. If anytime you guys need to do this on the chart, it will always remain on there. I might put some different variations to it so I can see it. You got the green here. I'm simply going to right click, duplicate that, and then just add it to the bottom of our range, which is right about there. Now we have a short-term flag price projection that takes us almost squarely right at that 8,100 level. So you've got that too. I drew one yesterday in the class. I'm going to take that off now. But that's really nice. If you use these patterns on here, they can be helpful. And again, I'm just clicking this bottom icon right here, just to the right of that little target, sort of a target sign. You click on that. I'm using the diagonal line, and that gets us some of these levels that we can utilize. There are other tools to do too, but here you go. So a price pattern as well would be the flag pattern right about here, short term. That's the short-term flag within the longer-term flag. So we're talking about patterns within patterns here. A lot of traders love that because you're trying to add in an expectation on top of another expectation. And some traders think that there just could be, a better chance of something unfolding if you're getting multiple price patterns. But the thing is it could also fail. We always keep that in our minds as well. There is also a triangle pattern in here, pretty clearly mapped out in the classic Elliott wave format. A, B, C, D, E, right there. I have drawn in here also, yes, there are 3 projections. The triangle projection that is taken from the first breakout right there. And so you've got this level just below 79. So I'm just going to label them. You got a 1, you got a 2, and you got a 3, which is off the charts here. You can always zoom down to find that, but these are interesting. And let me just tell you, it can change on a big company. NVIDIA is at the core of so much of what is happening with the AI situation, right? The AI grow out, sort of growth expansion within AI. I'm refraining from calling it a bubble, but I think many believe it is a bubble. But a quick note on that. Remember, roughly 48% of the S&P 500 falls within. These numbers can change, but that is going to be the Mag 7 stocks. Okay, so what's within that Mag 7? NVIDIA and a lot of tech companies within the Mag 7 will also move when NVIDIA moves too. Here is the Mag 7. Now, there is an ETF for the Mag 7. We don't talk about ETFs in this class. We have other classes that talk about ETFs, but we did set it up here as well. This is an interesting one to keep an eye on because we are getting a bit of a triangle here, still sticking to the big picture because there is a big influence on the markets here. And we're right at that level where we could start to see a move one way or the other. This is the Mag 7, as you can see, drawn out. One of the capabilities of the platform, Apple Plus, just put the plus sign in there. Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, NVIDIA. There better be 7 in there. There are. Okay. Because I've been using this for a while, just looking at it. But what are we getting close to here? This is also sort of a triangle type pattern. A, B, C, D, E. That's how Elliott calls it. I mean, a lot of people just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But now we're on the verge here of what could be a potential breakout. I've got to draw one more line in here, though, using the Thinkorswim tools off the bottom so you can see that triangle. Quite a ways away from the apex where these two lines do converge. However, keep in mind that what we're really looking for here is maybe a move outside of that upper channel right there, 2600. That could be very, very interesting to see if in fact we get that. One really cool way, because there could be so much. I mean, it's getting very close, at least as of the last read. About 48% of the S&P 500's movement is in the Mag 7. So what we could do is utilize another tool on the platform here and just put a line, maybe somewhere. Well, let's even be more precise. If we break that upper channel line, that could be the break of the triangle. Look at this, create alert withdrawing. Crosses above the Mag 7 line for some indications of some movement in that Mag 7 going up. And by the way, it's going to be, a lot of this is going to be tied into NVIDIA, but I'm just going to say likely, right? It could be. Trend line break, question mark, put that in. Always down here too, if you like to get the mobile devices sent. Scoot on down. Make sure that send push notifications button is selected. Click on create there. And look at that. We put an alert on this thing, which is our own little mini sort of index of the Mag 7. You guys did it. Now to set this up, just so you have it, because this is new to a lot of people, go to setup up top, come on down to application settings, and just go to notifications. You can put your email address in here. You can put in a text message as well, which is really cool to have. That's what I use. I use text messages. I've been using those Scott and I have been using these for, I hate to say it now, but like decades, not quite decades, but we're getting close to decades. Over a decade. Quick note too, alerts aren't guaranteed to be delivered or delivered at any specific speed or time frame. Should not be used as a replacement for actively being aware of your own positions. I bring that up also stating that I haven't had any issues over that decade of alerts being triggered. My alerts are triggered, but we just say, they're not guaranteed. Okay, as a quick note. Now with that, let's continue on since we've got that in place. And just a quick look down here. Awesome. I think we're all set up in here and we're ready to go. All right. Thank you, Scott. Got us going there in the chats. Really appreciate it. By the way, a quick note, be sure to follow Scott Thompson CS on X. I am Mike Fairborn CS. Love to have you guys follow us. By the way, if you are getting value out of this presentation, we've got a long ways to go. We've got all our stocks to look at, where I'm jumping into them right now. But smash that like button. Lets us know, Scott and I know, that this presentation was of use to you guys and helpful. Another quick note, just while we're here, hit this. I'd love to have you subscribe if you are new to our channel. It is the Trader Talks channel, and you'll see this right up top here in the Trader Talks channel. In fact, I'll put this link into the chat. There's a subscribe over here. By the way, we have the playlist here. I'll scroll this down so you can take a look at this. This is where you would find Rachel's class. Now, I did fill in for her last week, but you can, click on this playlist. In fact, I will pull that up just so you have it. You're going to see a lot of Rachel's classes in here previously. I'm going to just copy this and put this into the chat so you all can access her recorded classes. There it is. But yeah, I'd love to have you subscribe. And I always like to check this, Scott. But yeah, still at 209. Getting close to 210, I believe, but 209,000 subscribers. Love to have you on board. Okay. Well, with that, let's dive on into it. Now, what I wanted to mention is the zigzag indicator. I'm going to start off actually with Apple here to highlight this. And I'm actually going to go full screen. We're going to lose our other indicators over here. I'm going to have this painted on the screen behind the scenes as we look at every single stock, or at least a lot of them we can look at. We can take it off too if we want to, just to give you a general idea of what's going on, to map out particular moves on the chart. If you haven't used it before, come up here in our edit studies and go to the left-hand side. It's the zigzag, and I've used the percent. There are others in here, but it is a fascinating little tool. And what it does is it plots out, I'll double click it again. There we go. So the default is 8%, and it looks at moves that are 8% or greater, okay, in terms of the zig and the zag. I'm just going to change some colors up. I like, actually, this is not too bad. Let's change this up to blue just so we can have a variation on from the chart data with green. At least we can have red going down, though. That's fine. Actually, you know what? We can use pink or that color right there, which is pinkish. And I'm going to go to like a 3. That might be too thick, but I'll just show it to you. So this is what it does on the chart. Now, this is helpful, and we can change that percent at any time we want. This is helpful on at least two key fronts. That is we can check and see when this stock pulls back, how far does it pull back? Remember, this looks at 8%. If we had it set at 5, it would be like giving us zigzags over here. But that's the default. And you can see over here, if I check and go back to my same diagonal line in Thinkorswim, come up here from the high to the low, you can see right there, it was more than 8%. In fact, it was 13%. This is really cool too. If I go over here, where it says no and no, the show bubbles is interesting because what that shows us is what those percentages are. Cool, isn't it? Now you have a tool as you're doing price patterns and also potential projections and areas to look at. How much has that stock fallen? And I mean, when it does fall, what are some of the levels it falls to? And I just chose this one on the fly. It was that we were in the Mag 7. But do you see any interesting correlations in here? Look at this. 13, 11, 12 and change, and 11. That's almost 13. Interesting. Those are some pullbacks. So sometimes if you're in this range, and a lot of times you see this over and over again, you get percentage pullbacks. Look at this one, 23%, 27%, 24%, in the 20s. So when it really does have a run, one thing we can say is it's greater than 20 over at least the past year, 20%, which could be an area to look at for a long-term potential flag pattern. It's not a guarantee, and we can use other techniques to help us along the way, but that's really quite interesting. All right, now that we've got this down, the other key aspect is, I'm going to take these off for now. That was just an example, but I think it's a great way to see when a stock is pulling back, how much is it pulling back? We take the show bubbles off, but it gives us those percentages. Great. Now, if I come over here and start going in to some of our price patterns, boom, let's hit it. Here's the Shopify. You guys see it over here now? We saw an interesting move here, and we're seeing a little bit of a flag, but what you can see here, if you're looking for it, the inverted, also known as the head and shoulders bottom pattern, right there. See the line? It's actually drawn out exactly what I drew up here. There's your head and shoulders bottom pattern. Rachel's done a number of these projections previously. Now, if this full projection was going to go higher here, and we were looking at a shoulder, head, shoulder, we would take basically a neckline drawn like this. It's actually could be downward sloping. I use the closing prices in often cases right over here. When we break above this level, we take this distance in price off the bottom. So we're measuring the highest range across the neckline. From the top to the bottom, the neckline, I'm going to simply just right click now, duplicate this, pull it over, and on the actual breakout, which is right there, boom, now we've got a price price target puts us very nicely at 170. I mean, look at that. We're like landing. Lately, I've been landing on even numbers. It's weird. Even in the thousands or higher, tens of thousands. I've seen it with some of the markets. What's interesting about this too is this right here. It takes us right to prior levels of prior highs, and also with that, prior levels of resistance. So that is interesting to see. Okay. Now with this too, there could be a larger possible flag pattern. I'll use a different kind of an indicator to draw this out so you guys can see it. In fact, I'll use a different color altogether. Let's go with uh, just a lighter, like an orange or something. So if I drag this up here, you can see it to this level. Now this distance, just eyeballing it here, but maybe somewhere over here in terms of the flag, kind of getting close to being off our chart again. But do you see the flag right there? That's the pull of the flag. Here's the pullback. If we got going, it could be interesting. One quick note, we are breaking above the 150 level, so it could be interesting, but a lot of strength there. The bottom line is that is the inverted head and shoulders bottom pattern here that you can see right there. Okay. So we'll continue on. We will hit some paper trades here in just a bit. But in terms of the shorter term head and shoulders, we are saying this, and this is within the Mag 7. Do you see it here? It's mapped it out really, really nicely for us. By the way, we talked about this yesterday in swing trade class, but bouncing right off the 61.8 fib and literally holding that number, which anchors incredibly well over here with Google. Now it is down a little bit today, or Alphabet. Let's do this with right click, remove that. Oh, I got two of them now. All right, let's just get rid of both of these for now. Okay, do you see it? Do you see how the zigzag can kind of help us get familiar with these patterns? Shoulder, head, shoulder, projected target range could be through here. There might be a slightly increasing line there, but we take this, if we can break out above it, extend that to the upside. And so it could be actually a large sort of a setup potential on Google, which could, by the way, this inverted head and shoulders pattern could mirror something like this. You'll see it right over here, right there. So see the flag pattern? It looks so similar in terms of the distance. Measuring this out in price to this out in price. It's off our charts again. It's quite high. We can drag the X axis down right here, and you can see, wait, y-axis? Yeah, down, and we can see where that level, that projected level could come in at. So I'm going to do this. We're going to do a paper money trade on this one as we've got it in place. This is going to be actually, I'll use the flag, although there's a short-term inverted head and shoulders pattern. I'm using it to these closing prices right up top here. We've got a lot of touch points. The body of the candle, let's go ahead and duplicate it, pull it over so we have a target range, assuming that this is off the bottom. Now, one other thing to point out is, have we begun to break higher here? Do we have a close above the high to low day? Folks, we do not. We don't. And we don't have, even a break above the prior high range, which somebody could look at. In fact, I could do this too. I want to put a trade in here, but just to highlight this, we could also do I'll just do like ST, like short term breakout question mark right there, and make sure that something like that is also texted to me via the text messages as we've discussed. But what I'm going to do is, that's kind of a longer term target, but we're not really getting a signal here, but there could be some good support. So let's do this. We'll go to the trade tab. It is an expensive stock. I'm just going to elect to do 50 shares here instead of the full round lot. OCL bracket order. Let's go ahead and set up our GTCs here. This target's going to be quite a bit higher. I'm going to simply drag it on the chart here, show you how to do that. I know you guys know, many of you do, but let's go 335 here. And let's turn this to a 50. Oh, let's do that again. Highlight it. I normally just double click on it, 50, tab through, and then link it. Now, when you get this set up, just confirm, read through that order box, make sure everything's in place. You got your buying power effect and other points there. We'll send this on through. There's our fill. And I'm going to come up here and just pull this up. This is the longer move. If we were looking at the longer flag pattern in terms of the upside target. Now the downside target was close. Some traders might want to put it just below this level, the prior lows. I mean, we're virtually in that same range. I bumped it up like a point and a half or so right there. In other words, very, very short. If we're talking about a potential reward to potential resistance level, because we did talk about the stops, right? Potential for getting filled there. Try to get filled if that was a stop level. But look at this reward. My gosh. And the price has been holding here, which is interesting. So traders do appreciate this, many of them. If we were to get in here, look at that. Folks, that's better than a 2-to-1. There's probably a lot of them in here, as you can see, what we're potentially risking versus our potential reward on the upside. But that's one of the key benefits of price patterns. I mean, it's going to be something like maybe 8 to 10-to-1 on something like that. That is the big one, though. But that is the play going higher. And by the way, a lot of times as prices are making their way up here, one of the things I'll mention in the swing trade class, and I know Rachel talks about this too, but you could always plot in, let's say a 10-period moving average below here or a 20. And if it starts to, it has some good gains, but starts to break down, that might be a way to signal that maybe you could take some off the table or close the position too. Okay, a couple more of these shorter term ones. There is Micron. Do you see it? Shoulder, head, shoulder. The zigzags are kind of helping us with that. Now, what's interesting, of course, many of us know about Micron here and the run that it had up. They have a 3-year backlog of something like it's a ridiculously high number. It's in the, don't quote me, I think it's in the billions though, in terms of just their backlog orders for the next 3 years. They've already got it booked. So it's fascinating. But that's what really resulted in this giant run. But when you see these long, super, super long-term flags, it's not unusual to get very, very interesting bottoms, a bottom formation, even like you got the long-term flag, but within that long-term flag, boom, you're getting the potential for an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Now, where does the short-term trade take us? It takes us right over here into this range in terms of just the bottom pattern to get us going. Oh, there we go. So right about, look at that big round number. Again, 1,000. So if I take this distance here, which is about 750 to 1,000, so about 250, I think I can get a pretty good fill. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Right to the prior high. The market's interesting sometimes because when you get these symmetries in place and you're looking at these moves, a lot of times it will give you additional indications that, yeah, if we were to run up there, there may in fact be a resistance up there at that point too. But very, very interesting. Okay, so that is Micron. We're going to throw a wild card in here. That's not technology, inverted head and shoulders pattern. Remember, 8% on the zigzags don't show up, but I'm still seeing a little bit of this shoulder, head, kind of a longer head, big head, or two heads, 1, 2, and then the shoulder over here on the verge, maybe, of breaking higher above that neckline. We shall see. I mean, we're getting close. Kind of dipped a little bit, but there you have Pepsi. By the way, Pepsi, I'm actually seeing something else over here. Look at this. We'll put just kind of a wavy line in here, but you see the potential for another double bottom long term? Sometimes those double bottoms can be quite powerful off the bottom. A good quick way to do this, just click it over. If you got your grid chart set up over to the left. Oh, one more. There we go. There we go. There's a 15-year weekly. Yeah, there was some activity right there. Okay, very good. Now, let's move on to some of these that have actually already broken out too. So here's one that has broken out. There's a bit of a pattern over here too. In a lot of ways, though, I'm looking for potential pattern formations that could occur, that could unfold after a longer term consolidation. A lot of traders, myself included, will oftentimes look at this. They'll come over here and they'll say, this is sort of indicative of a cup and handle, somewhat rounded, not exactly a rounded bottom, but like a double tap, tap, double bottom type formation. So you can see the potential for a cup and handle in here. Again, take the top of the cup down to the bottom of the range, measure this up when we break out that same distance. My gosh, look at that again. Again, yeah, real close up here to the prior highs is what I'm getting at, folks, over here. Now, what could lead us? What could lead a trader to believe that it might actually be on the verge of breaking out and going? Let's clear it off. If you said this over here, the initial breakout, the next breakout, the next level breakout, you could be right. I mean, it could be right in this range here because now it's breaking out. So maybe an indication of it getting going. We talked about one of these too, one that's already developed a little bit further along those lines. We talked about this last week. This is MasterCard, and there is the cup and handle right there. It's kind of a longer term one. I'm going to take this off for just a second. We can always put it back on, but there is the zigzags, right? We'll take out the zigzags just so you can see it a little bit easier there. Okay. Um, I have that on. I don't know why. I'll take that off, but there we go. So there's your cup and handle. It's a long one. This is a really sort of more of a classic cup and handle where you're getting the real cup shape down below. See if I can draw this, do it justice here. But there you go. See it with there, the handle? The cup and handle is actually made up of three different patterns if you look at them. The rounded bottom, or referred to as a saucer bottom as well, that is a pattern in and of itself. The last portion of the move is what? It is a bull flag attached to the end of that saucer. So it's simply just the saucer plus this coming up here like this. It's like a bull flag. And and then on top of that, you get the whole pattern really, which is the cup and handle. Two patterns, you know, get that third one in place. And that is also an indication, maybe a little bit further along the lines. Now, I did draw in here that there is a small term. And by the way, a lot of traders will look at this too. Because sometimes your trading time frame, I mean, we could look at some, if you were a swing trader, you could do it on a short-term basis. Notice the flag right there. Beautiful flag. Just a strong pull. Could be part of a larger cup and handle, but look at this. That's the price projection there when we're almost to it. We're almost to that level on MasterCard. Okay. It's already up a little bit. Oh yeah, we had a portion of one in here, I think is what we did. This is just papered money, but I think we were looking at a target range here and then maybe one up top, kind of dual. Anyways, that was one. Here's another cup and handle, TYL, that could be forming. I mean, it's, you don't really, I mean, you can only really say it till after it's completed, but this one too, around a rounded bottom, this is different because this is really a long-term downward move. MasterCard's not quite this low. Shoulder, head, shoulder, still rounded right there. And where are we? Right there. We might be in the flag phase of that cup and handle. And a lot of times where it will bounce off of is prior high ranges right there. Gosh. All right. I'm gonna get a straight line. In fact, I've got a tool here that can help me with that a little better now, but like right there. Like, do you see it? I mean, we could be close. But if it starts to bounce, show us an indication that it is bouncing. That's one that a trader could look at. I mean, that's hypothetical, right? That's the hypothetical bounce. We don't know if it'll do that, but you can kind of get my point there. Okay. Now we have a lot of breakouts and retests as well out there. These are getting close, and these could be, some potential trade setups. Let's do some in here though, in terms of the trades. This is Fastenal, and Fastenal, I think in terms of a flag pattern, it's just really kind of clearly showing a breakout range. In fact, I'll just step back another year to show you that it did take out a long-term high. It did so post earnings. I think the market did like the earnings, but you can see I drew this line all the way across at 50, kind of one of those round numbers. Sometimes we'll see resistance if we're below it or support above it. We happen to be above it. And you'd have to say right there, prior high, a prior high range. Now, as we look at this move. that could be a larger term flag pattern. The fact that we're holding there is somewhat interesting. Now, some of the targets that we could see on a price pattern, now this would be a very, very short-term target. That'd be a T1 target. That is just the top or a target one. That's the top of the move right there. Scott was very instrumental in pointing this out to me early on. I appreciate that. And then a target two, and I'll draw a yellow line to kind of match with this too, but maybe a target up here that could be part of a longer term like this. So this sort of a pullback. Did I draw it a little high? Maybe I did. But anyways, you get the point. Um, there is a uh, another target right there, and that would be referred to as a T2 target. That is the length of the entire flag as opposed to just going to the top of the prior highs, or the last resistance. Over here, just keep it color coded, that would be a T1 target. So there you go. Multiple targets even within the flag, the flag formation, that price pattern, okay? So looking at this, we're getting a little bit of a move off the bottom here, but if I did want to go and get really specific, let's pull it up. Let's go, sure, I'll vary this a little bit. Okay, click here. Okay, 3 clicks, I got it. Okay, let's go over here off that bottom, boom. So it's just above that 57.50 mark. There's your pullback, there's the bottom, there's the target. Beautiful. What I like about these two, now there's no guarantee, of course, but I'm just saying it's nice when there are additional expectations out there. What was the key expectation here? We broke above a longer term high level. We'd been below it for quite some time. That's that's last September, August, exactly almost a year. We're above it though. And now we have support above that. So again, it could help. Some traders might see it as an expectation, is what I'm saying. So let's do this. I'm going to go over here. We'll go to our trade tab. I'm going to go ahead and go a full round lot here, just a full 100 shares. Oops, let's do that again. Right click. Yeah, there we go. GTC, good tail cancel. We'll leave it there. This is quite a bit higher, but I do like to kind of drag it anyways, just to see where we're at. I'll leave that one. It's just the default is 1 point lower on potential exit. That is the stop level. Confirm that, read through that, take a look at your buying power effect. This one's a lot, cheaper, relatively speaking. That's the Fastenal. And click. There you go. Now I was close to it. I wasn't quite there, but I'm going to pull this down to a target here and click OK and zoom in for our stop to keep that reward risk potential quite, at least on the risk side, tight, right? Kind of cut the losers quick and let the profits run is the idea. That's really quite tight. You could go a little bit lower if you wanted to. I'm just saying somebody could because there is longer term support potential over there. Okay. One more time. Sorry. I'm going to put it below 50. I'm going to give it like, yeah, basically 49 and a half range because sometimes it might bounce right up of 50. There you go. We put it in a little bit early here. Okay. Let's keep it rolling. By the way, Fastenal. What is fascinating about Fastenal is it is a dividend aristocrat. And have you seen the dividend aristocrats lately? 52-week new highs for the basket. It's interesting. It is fascinating. If you look over here, there's your yield, 2.03%. Now, it was a dividend aristocrat as of late, but things can change. I just want to say that, yeah, it was the last time I checked, which was not very long ago at all, but they can fall off, but that's just my understanding. And what does that mean? They've raised the dividends. First of all, it's a stock in the S&P 500 that's raised the dividends consecutively, each and every year consecutively, for at least, that's a minimum of 25 years. Good times and bad. It's a pretty elite group of companies, but there you go. All right. The yield's not too high because the price has been running up quite a bit. Let's continue on here. There's another one over here that also, looking at some of the breakouts that have occurred and tests. There is PACCAR up top here, but you can see clearly the breakout retest and fitting into the middle of this, you might get an idea where that longer term flag might be. Well, there's the pole of the flag. We're not quite there. In fact, this is about This is about, yeah, this range right over here, maybe a little bit higher, but there's within this, we still may have that higher expectation that some will look for of resting near these prior highs. So if you start to get a sign that it's going to go here, well, they might say, well, I think this is a flag. And by the way, this could be a flag in and of itself in terms of a price pattern. So really looking at some of the core strength levels. Is this a dividend payer too? It does pay dividends, but I don't know if it's an aristocrat. It does not ring a bell as an aristocrat. We already looked at NVIDIA. This one did break out of a shorter range. Again, key thing here, and maybe key thing for the market. Take a look at this, and let's see what happens after hours here on that market. But eyes on NVIDIA here. Can you guys see the longer term flag still positioning itself? The shorter term one we actually did hit, which I'll just quickly overlay here, was this move up. Well, no, I'm going to go back on that. I would say that's not a flag. I would say it's a measured move, though. You see the distance, these highs and these lows. Very interesting, but a lot of times you go right to the top of that, you'll find that support level there. I don't know if I'm measuring that perfectly, but the one I was looking at in terms of a flag was this one here. There's your move. It's a long consolidation. I know, a double bottom, but we could still, reach up in that level. And let me give you a price target on this using the Thinkorswim tools. Click right here. We are holding, by the way, right at a 50% level, which matches touch, 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 and right there as well. We've been holding there. Earnings will play the key role, but I wanted to highlight that. Now, in terms of the projection here, I'm just going to activate this guy and pull it right over to the bottom level and right around 260-ish. 260 is that flag pattern projection. Now, just for the fun of it, I think it's fun. I think you guys do too. But let's do this. I'm going to take this one off. We know that's resting at the 50 fib. I'm going to drag this guy over here and redraw it for the larger term one and just see if that's another. No, it's 61.8 right at the bottom rung. Look at that. Bounced off the 61.8. This one's at the 50 thus far. Earnings, though, will play the crucial determining factor there. Amazon, long-term setup there. We did have this as a swing trade because it has a potential to really move fast when it does move. Still holding right near this 260 level. But you can see there, one thing a trader could say, over here, folks, prior high, interesting. We broke it. Interesting here, we're holding it. Why is that interesting? Well, yeah, there's a resistance support level, but right there as well. We'll put a check right there, okay? Okay, double bottom. I've got three to show you in just a couple minutes here, but Cisco, you can see there's a shorter term move, but also we've got to see the forest through the trees. And that means basically, in my mind at least, is stepping back and looking at that longer term flag, which you guys, by the way, are good at in this class. Rachel goes through that a lot, and you guys have seen a number of these things. Now look at this. This is interesting too with Cintas. Broke above the high, shoulder, head, shoulder. Wow. That was a huge reversal here. But then also we're getting a consolidation for potential follow through. Last one, GEHC. Okay, we can't have a class. We can't without an island bottom. There you go. There's that island bottom right there. Notice over here, you're getting this consolidation. And what's interesting too is notice we came down here. Sometimes we'll have this here. And what is that? That would be a flag pattern. I spelled it out slowly, flag. If it looks, I've seen them look just like this. And what comes after, we don't know if it always happens, but I have seen this a lot of times where you're getting this symmetry off of an island reversal, double bottom island reversal. That fits, folks, a flag pattern. Could be an interesting one to keep an eye on there. Okay. Well, that was a lot of information. The tool set we were using, folks, lastly, that was the zigzag percent. Can be very helpful. If you're getting up to speed, I know many of you already are excellent at finding those price patterns. We just go through and we, discuss them in this class. But for those that are new, Keep that in mind. Watch that close, okay? You can use it, change the percentages, see the pullback and extension ranges as well. Folks, like this if you did like the presentation, and give us a follow on our Trader Talks channel. Now, having said all that, have a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you so much, Scott, for your help in the chat as always. And yes, Jenny Michelle says announcement after hours on NVIDIA. Thanks for the reminder. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. See you next time.